Welcome to the Property Punch podcast, your go-to blend of bold property insights, straight talking strategy, and wealth building wisdom. We serve it short, sharp, and full of flavor, made for real people who want real results from real estate. Each week, we'll stir together smart tips, market moves, and practical advice to help you grow your portfolio, create passive income, and build wealth, one sip at a time. No fluff, no jargon, just a property brew you'll actually want to drink. So grab your glass. It's time for your weekly pour or property punch. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Property Punch podcast. I'm your host Thabo, and today I'm going to be joined with my co-host and my dad, Washington. So, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm really good. I'm really well. Thank you. How have you been?
I've been good, thank you very much.
That's good to hear.
Today, the two of us will be trying to talk about something that is very important in the grand scheme of wealth building and creating wealth, and that is your mindset. Because before you look at the suburbs or look at spreadsheets and try to find out which locations or which property types are best for your property portfolio, you first need to start with a good mindset, and creating that foundation will help you and prepare you for success later down the road. Isn't that right, Dad?
Absolutely, Thabo. You're right. I always say property investing is 80% mindset and only 20% mechanics. You can have all the spreadsheets, the data, the suburbs, the suburb reports, but if your thinking isn't aligned, if your belief system is rooted in fear or doubt, then you'll always find a reason not to act. I've seen it time and again. People delay for years, not because they don't have the money, but because they don't believe it's possible for them. Fear will talk you out of opportunities. However, it's the mindset that gets you moving even when the path isn't 100% clear.
And fear is a very real thing, especially in property investing. I've seen and heard of lots of people freezing up or being concerned or delaying their property journey because of either fears they have or stuff they've heard that have caused them fear. So I feel like overcoming that fear is a very important step in the right direction for your property journey.
Exactly. And a lot of these fears come from the stories we were told growing up. I grew up hearing money doesn't grow on trees, debt is dangerous, and you need to pay off your house first before you think of investing. These ideas actually shaped how I saw money for a very long time, and not in a good way at all. But at some point, you have to challenge those stories. If you don't, they become invisible barriers. Property isn't just for the wealthy, it's for the willing. The mindset trap is thinking it's not for you.
So what does the right mindset look like?
That's a good question. To me, the right mindset looks like willing to play the long-term game. It's patience when you feel the pressure. It's clarity when everyone's shouting the noise. It's knowing what you want and why, and staying the course when life throws you distractions. One of the biggest killers of momentum is comparison. Someone else's fourth property might be your first, and that's okay. You run your own race. And like Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. That quote still gives me chills because it's not about talent, it's about belief.
As this is our almost personal and very introspective topic today, how about we go personal? What are some books or things that you've read that either helped you see or distinguish what type of mindset you should have, or really helped you get on the right track or find the right road in terms of mindset and the right mindset to have when wanting to build and create wealth?
You got me on that one. But let me see. Look, I would say the book that I really read and that did a light bulb moment was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. That book didn't just inspire me; it slept me awake. I remember reading it and literally stopping halfway through to reflect on my whole life. It introduced me to a completely different way of thinking. The idea that the wealthy don't trade time for money, they build assets. That was revolutionary to me. Up until then, I thought working hard was the goal. But that book flipped it. The goal is to build freedom. And you do that through ownership, not just effort.
So how have you used this book to kind of forge your own path and build your own wealth?
Look, it's all about understanding that time is money. And when you know that time is money, you understand your worth, then you're trying by all means as early as possible and whilst you're young to build as many assets that you can, because those are the ones that will build your income in the long term.
Interesting.
But I guess the most important aspect is just the awareness. Because without awareness, you probably will not gonna be knowing what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong.
So awareness is something important that you learn from the book.
Absolutely. And making sure that I'm learning the fundamentals of not having to trade time for money. Mm-hmm. But I'm actually, acquiring assets that will provide me with what we call passive income in the long term.
There's some great terms you threw around there. Passive income and the long term, and property being a long-term strategy instead of a short-term one, which we did actually talk about in our first episode. So if you haven't watched that, you should definitely go have a listen or have a watch. That book sounds like a great read, actually. But for me, I really enjoyed the book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. The book broke down how money works and that most of monetary choices that most people make often stems down from emotion rather than education or strategy. And I thought that was a really interesting take on how we use our money and where we put it, because I think it's a very applicable and realistic take, because life is unexpected and different things can happen and emotions can change. Like fear, for example, you might be fearful that maybe it's not the right time for you, or you can't afford certain places, and that often changes where you put your money. But that you should actually first try to educate yourself and put in a strategic plan through someone like yourself to really grow your wealth.
It's interesting that you can still find time to read other books, personal growth books, when you got so much, work at uni. How is uni going anyway?
It is busy, but it's good.
Oh, okay. Yes. So you just completed your first semester?
Yes, I did.
How did you go? Did you get your results yet for the last exams?
Yeah, I did actually. I got it back today. Okay. And I didn't do too bad. I went pretty good, so that's good.
That's good. Good to hear that. So yeah, look, at the end of the day, continuously feeding your mind with good information, for example, books or whatever you watch or read, is very, very important for your personal growth in terms of shifting the beliefs about money, but also educating yourself and making sure that you are empowering yourself knowledge-wise. One thing about school is it teaches us how to work, not how to build wealth. If more people learn the mindset of an investor earlier, we would see generational shifts.
And I think it's something important and something that we should highlight, that fear isn't always a bad thing. It can be our almost signal that it is time for you to either get educated or learn more through, like you said, reading books, going to talk to a professional, or going out of your way to maybe watch a few videos on whatever platform about building wealth and wealth creation, and to not just run away from the problem or the situation from fear, but to kind of see it as a signal to learn more.
That's the thing. Most of us were taught how to earn money, not how to make it work for us. Schools teach us job security, not financial independence. And I always tell people, if you can shift your beliefs, your habits will follow. The people who build wealth aren't necessarily smarter. They just believe it's possible and they are willing to learn and grow. So fear is natural. I've felt it before. But if you use it as fuel, it sharpens your decision making. It pushes you to prepare better, ask better questions, and build the right team around you.
And I think that's very important to focus on building the right team around you, and that having good people and a good team around you can actually support you and guide you through that fear, which is also very important.
Following on that, I want to share with you some, real client stories and some life examples. I've had the privilege of working with all kinds of people: engineers, pharmacists, Uber drivers, teachers, you name it. What sets the successful ones apart isn't their income or education, it's their mindset. For example, one of our clients, her name is Mel. She's a physiotherapist, no financial background, but she had a dream. She wanted freedom for her children. She wanted options. She started small, one property, then the second, then a third. And she did that not because she had it all figured out, but because she refused to let fear lead her decisions.
I remember Mel, and I remember hearing about her journey and her navigating her financial situation. And she might not have had it all figured out, but she followed the process, she trusted the vision, and she trusted in you and your team at Your Wealth Mentor to try and to almost guide her and help her through that journey, which is, like you said, building that good team around you.
You're right, Thabo. Mel didn't wait to feel ready. She trusted the process. She asked a lot of questions. She stayed curious and she stuck with it, even when it was uncomfortable. I remember when I bought my first investment property, I didn't have all the answers. I was nervous, but I leaned on 3 things. 1, my why. 2, my numbers. And 3, my mindset. And now, years later, I've helped others do the same. Not because I've had a perfect start, but because I started. That's the key. All right, Thabo. We've been talking about mindset today, on our podcast. I'd like to know exactly whether you can relate. How do you relate to the topic of mindset in your current situation at uni, even stuff that you do outside of uni, extracurricular activities?
I had to really deep dive and think about my mindset the most during my last year in high school, which was the HSC, if you live in Australia, because it was like a marathon and it was very exhausting, and there was just lots of stuff to do, and there was lots of work that needed to be done, lots of assignments that all were very important and need to be done well. And also there was also more creative aspects that needed to be more looked into, such as I do music in the HSC, so I had to make sure that on top of schoolwork that my body and my vocal cords were good, and it was just lots of thinking. But my mind, and also I had to think about my ATAR at the end and think about what goal I wanted and what mark I wanted to get into the university I'm in right now. And I think the mindset that I had that was very important was that you have to take, even though it was very fearful and very scary, it's just you have to take each day as it comes and tackle each hurdle and challenge little by little, because overwhelming yourself doesn't really do much. It just makes you even more scared and even more anxious. But almost calming myself down, even taking rest days and mental health days, and just saying, oh, I'm just gonna rest for maybe even just like 2 or 3 hours today, and then I'll like look at it again later when I have like a refreshed mind, was always really helpful. And hearing support and having a good team around me, like my friends and like you and mum, really helped during that process.
Okay. All right, good to hear. And are you still using some of those aspects in your current situation now that you're at uni? I guess, and probably I'd assume that there's actually more workload. Even what you're doing now, working for your wealth mentor, now there's uni work, but there's also work, which you expect to perform because you're getting paid. So how are you really juggling those two and using that shift of mindset in combining the two?
I think that idea of taking each obstacle and each challenge as it comes is one that I've been using a lot, as well as keeping a good team around me. I'm a person that gets overwhelmed very easily, and I get very drained very easily. And I think, especially with like uni and work, I needed to like make sure that I was submitting my assignments and doing my quizzes and the weekly stuff for uni, but also saving time to do work. So even I would map out my day like hour by hour of, I'll be in this class, but then after that class, I need to watch this lecture. After that, I need to do this quiz. And then often on the train, either to uni or back from uni, I would set aside, because the train ride is like an hour or so, I would set aside some time to either go over more uni work so that I can do work when I get home, or do some work on the train. And then when I get home, I can just fully decompress and spend the evening with my family.
Oh, good to hear. So now that you're making a bit of money, a bit of coins in your role that you are doing at your wealth mentor, and what are some of the money lessons that you are adopting for yourself, even now that you work closely to us, where we're helping clients to build wealth through mainly property investments? What are some of the practical steps that you're putting yourself into that to make sure that it's actually benefiting you?
Saving is a very big one, because it's better to start and be consistent with your anything really in life than be too overwhelmed to like start at all. So saving's very important. I'm not the best saver, to be very honest, but putting aside every paycheck, putting aside just a little bit of money to the side into a savings account that I don't touch, that I don't transfer money back into my everyday account, that is just dedicated to future wealth creation, whether that be investing in property or other property related expenses, I think is very important. So that's what I've been doing with my money, because I feel like even 5 years down the line, I don't want to be like, I want to start, but I have nothing to start with. It's better to start with at least something and come to a professional like yourself and say, I have this much, like what is the next steps, and saying, hey, I have nothing, what are my steps? Because it's easier to work from somewhere than nowhere.
Okay, so you have your goals written down. Do you write your goals in terms of what you want to be? You spoke about 5 years time. You have something that's written down that you want to achieve?
Yes. I actually got this thing from my mom, which is like, at the start of the year, write down your goals, like physically write them down. I have a whiteboard in my room, and I write down my goals for this year, financial, career-wise, relationship-wise, and just like wellness-wise on the whiteboard. And I've written that down. I've been pretty clear about it and pretty intentional with what I put on my whiteboard, and I keep it where I can see it. So at least every day I'm like reminded of, these are my goals and this is what I want to achieve in this year. And even if I don't achieve everything, even if I've like contributed towards or gone in the right steps towards, it's better than nothing.
You know what they say? They say goals written down are half achieved. So that's good. Keep that habit, and I guess to all our viewers and listeners, they probably learn one or two things. Even your friends or your mates or people that are your age, they will take one or two things or two tips from that spiel.
What about you? How do you use mindset out of a work context?
Yeah, so look, a sport like golf is very, it sort of teaches you a few lessons that you can relate to life, especially with what we do in investments. And one of those, when you're playing golf, you face some obstacles, like, the trees on the golf course, there are water, there are bunkers. So it's just a matter of knowing where you are to where you want to go and pretty much deciding about which tool you're going to be using or which iron you're going to be using to reach there. In life is the same. First of all, you need to navigate from where you are to where you want to go and really putting a roadmap of how to get there. And one of those will be like what you mentioned earlier on, to set some goals, to write them down. So very, very similar to golf as well. But more importantly, as we all know, life doesn't move on a straight line. There are some obstacles in life. There's sickness, there's injuries, there's some disappointments. So again, it's about being flexible, re-strategizing your course of action if this doesn't work, and also making sure that you can be disappointed on this path of life, which can be on this hole on the golf course, but making sure that you're leaving that aside and you are re-strategizing on your next path. So very, very important. So and the final one is exercising patience. So patience is very, very important, and it's about the mindset. If you're not strong with the mindset on the golf course, you probably don't do well, because if the previous hole was very bad, don't carry that to the next hole. Just make sure that, sometimes it can be very difficult, but make sure that you cut it from there, and then this is now a new hole, new strategy, and a new course of action. So very, very similar to life, because life is full of disappointments, life's full of challenges, life's full of obstacles as well. So I kind of use that, I kind of relate to the two when I play sport, yeah.
All right, Dad. What would you tell 18-year-old me if I wanted to start out?
Oh, mate, this is really difficult. No, I'm just kidding. If I could talk to your 18-year-old you, I would say, start before you're ready. Don't wait for everything to be lined up perfectly. It never will be. Learn as you go. Be okay with mistakes. What matters is momentum. Also find people doing what you want to do, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Learn from their wins and their losses. That's how you collapse time. And I would say this, always ask yourself, is this decision building me wealth or just helping me look wealthy? That's one question that will save you from so many poor financial moves.
For me, I'd say trying to tell myself to start small and be consistent. Consistency is key. And don't wait until I feel like an investor. Act like one.
I love that. Because property investing isn't about hype, it's about habits. So now we're going to look at the takeaways and some action steps for our viewers and listeners. If there's one thing to take from this episode, it's this. Your mindset is the blueprint. Without it, even the best strategy won't stick. And here's a simple exercise to take with you this week. I would like you to write down one belief that's holding you back. And now challenge that, flip it into something empowering. For example, instead of saying or believing that property is too risky, flip it to, with the right guidance and strategy, property creates stability. At the end of the day, language matters, belief matters, and this is where the shift starts.
Without mindset, no strategy sticks. But with it, you'll stay on the right course. We'd love to hear your flips, so feel free and don't shy away from either commenting or DMing us about your flips and how you have taken a fear of yours or concern and flipped it to be motivational and positive.
That's it for this week's Pour of the Property Punch podcast. Your mindset is your foundation. Build it strong and the rest will follow.
Don't forget to follow and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. And if this helped you, share it with someone who needs that mindset nudge.
We'll catch up with you next week. Until then,
sip smart, invest better.